Today's the second day of this December 1982 7-day sesshin. We will continue with a koan that we started yesterday. It's number 16 from Comments on the Mumonkan by Zenkei Shibayama. And the title of the koan is Bell Sound and Priest's Robe. We talked quite extensively about the koan yesterday, but I forget if we really went thoroughly into this question of why. Before doing that, I don't believe I mentioned yesterday that during a talk, feel free to change your posture at any time. Is it possible to do it quietly? With a minimum of disturbance, even though there's noise. One of the main elements of this koan is this question, why? And in looking at it, whenever we are asked why by someone, isn't it most of the time that we immediately give an answer? Or we think we have to immediately give an answer. Because this is our training, our whole upbringing is you're asked and you answer. There's been reward in this since we were little, particularly in school in terms of grades. If we can quickly answer, we give the appearance of a person who is decisive, whatever. Person who knows his or her stuff. And we may do this at all costs. We may not know a thing about the thing, but we give an answer. To just come to awareness about that fact, that small fact, that we so often give an answer without having given the least bit of thought to the whole thing. We've heard somebody say something about this, and so we can answer. That's the important thing. Not what we answer, but that we answer. Because of all that's gone on in the past, gives us reward, or the reward of status in the group, or vis-a-vis the person who asks. Because it may also elicit group tension, because other people may want to say an answer, but we got there first. We'll talk about this, how it happens in a group, maybe in the light of another koan. So we'll leave that right now. Just look what happens just when a person is asked, or asks us, why? Why do you do that? So either there's the immediate answer, or we start thinking a little bit, and then we give an answer. Don't go very far with it. Or we may not like, we may detest being asked questions. Because we're so poor at giving answers. We're not as good with the words as other people are. We don't know very much. We're very unsure of ourselves. We're this indecisive person. So an easy way out is say, I don't know. If the question is asked, why are you here? It's so easy to say, I don't know. And maybe this I don't know means just, I don't want to think about it. To really confront a question, why? It takes real involvement or a gathering of energies, a diligence to look into the question. But very often we're afraid of that. We don't think we have the energy or what it takes. So to say, I don't know, is an easy way out. If it is this kind of I don't know that we say to ourselves or to the other person. I don't know, ask someone else. Or there is this I don't know, which is so, I really don't know. But whereas the first I don't know sort of closes things up. I don't know and I don't want to look. I don't want to find out. The other I don't know is opening things up. There is nothing in our training and upbringing about meeting a question fully with real interest, but not knowing. And that not knowing just closing matters off. So here, in coming to a thing like this, is there the possibility given to ask a question without immediately knowing, without any of this habitual impatience to get the answer. Because either the people are waiting, I got to prove myself, I got to show who I am, person of something or other. Because all of this is not built into this thing here at all, into this retreat. You may bring it here in your habitual ways of expecting things, but that has to be seen by each one of us. What do we bring here? Or is there something built in? And then, if you feel it is, bring it to our attention. We'll see if we can dismantle this one too. So, is it possible to be in a state of questioning without grabbing impatiently or anxiously for answers? For whatever reason. To have a question penetrate and then leave it sit with one. Oneself is that question and one doesn't know the answer. This gives feelings of discomfort because our most habitual ways are to know something. And not to know is a very disquieting feeling. Can you feel that? Thoroughly be with it. Without thinking That feeling shouldn't be there, or it's wrong. It's there. And not because of the feeling resort to thinking out answers again. You may find yourself time and again, that's what you're doing. You're thinking about answers, but then to see that. Or if you have the feeling, I've never really thought this thing out, never even taken the time, then take time to think something out as far as thought will go. You go through the whole thing and think it out. If I do this, this happens, and then this, and because of that, that happened. Yeah. Whatever the situation or the thing is that you want to think over thoroughly, then do it. And see how far you can go with thinking and what the limitations of thinking are. And the next time this thing comes up again, then you can say, no, I'm not going through it again, I did it. I understand how far thought can go. And then this not knowing, this not looking for occupation or entertainment or comfort in thinking. If it happens unawares, it happens. And then at a moment of attention, can there be the question again? Not knowing the answer? Not knowing. Which means no refuge in what you know. In your memories. Your past experiences. What you want the future to bring you. The future is also thinking. There's no future except in thought. Quite a number of people are working on this koan mu. When they first started, it was said in one way or another that mu can be said to stand for truth. Wholeness. Wholeness. No separation. One mind. Whatever words may have been uttered, but the word is not reality, is not the real thing. So what is truth? And some people, when they first got here, really wanted to know what is truth. Others wanted enlightenment and experience. Well, we've talked a lot about that. This wanting something that one has read about or heard about, and therefore doesn't see what's going on right here, the wanting, the dissatisfaction, anxiety that one sort of wants to magically be wiped out through this future experience. And therefore never in touch and always in conflict with what is actually going on, right on this seat. But there's also this yearning to be clear, what is truth? Because we're confused, deceived, self-deceived. Our hearing and vision and thinking is distorted by self-interest. All our past training, conditioning, parental, traditional, religious, the whole thing. So what is truth? What is reality? What is wholeness? Which means not cut upness. Individually or in a group or all over the world. What is it? What is wholeness? I don't know. All I know is this inner battle, inner cut upness, struggle, conflict, pain, and the constant running for pleasure, distraction. escape. What is wholeness? If it's not a concept, not a word, not a fine idea or ideal, I don't know what it is. Can I find out? I don't know. Neither do I know that I cannot find out. And I have no choice but to find out. Or rather, I have no choice but to question. Whether I'll find out, I don't know. So what is me? Or who am I? Very similar question. Who am I apart from all these images that I live up to, that I nurture, defend, maintain, get rid of just in order to get another one? It happens so quickly. It takes me a long time to become aware there's a new image there of a one who is getting rid of images. Who am I? Is there anything but a collection of memories and ideas sitting in this skin-enclosed body? I don't know. I've heard it said, you are this whole universe. You and this universe, you and the world are not two. But I don't feel it. I don't see it. What I feel is separation, isolation, and loneliness. A tremendous desire to escape from it. So who, or what is it? Just what is it, whatever's coming up? Without immediately giving an explanation, a description, a word. Really, truly questioning out of not knowing into not knowing. If that happens, even for an instant, it's a tremendous thing, because we never do that. We always respond out of knowing into knowing. Memory constantly at work. Rationalizations, whatever. Justifications. Confessions. Why? Who? What? Mu? Is it possible that all of oneself is in that question? That the question fills. It fills completely. Don't make this into an ideal. I ought to achieve that. That's why we put everything into question form. And then people tell me, or have told me in the past, it hasn't happened so much recently, when you make questions, you don't really question, you make statements. After a person told me that, I looked into it. What does the person mean? Because I do ask, I mean it, I mean the question. But then in discussing it with others, they told me, when you ask a question, we immediately answer, yes or no. So it becomes a statement. As though I just asked this question pro forma, sort of a guised statement. But the listener helps in this by immediately answering yes or no. And that's not what is meant in questioning. Not yes or no, but why? Or who or moo? People say, I don't know what you're talking about when you talk about not knowing. Well, you're on the way. Can't know it. That's the essence of it, not knowing. With an openness that doesn't run away or shirk away or brace against anything. In such questioning, there's a possibility for the brain to slow down, to quiet down, and yet to be fully awake. That's its best function in this kind of work. To be quiet. Not to offer any more propositions. Suggestions. And yet not to go to sleep in the process. So is it possible to question moo or who or what is it, or just some people are just questioning without any word. Some call it attending. In quietness, the quietness of not knowing, the stillness, the motionlessness of not knowing, in which there's no compulsion. Compulsion makes for restlessness because it brings about conflict. I ought to do it and I can't do it. Why the hell can't I do it? Because I must do it, but I can't, and it goes around and around. And there's tremendous restlessness throughout the body-mind. But there's nothing you ought to do. It's all one big question. Is it possible? Nobody says yes, nobody says no. It's for you, me, him, her, to find out on your own. You can only do it on your own. If there is restlessness, can it come, as it were, under the magnifying glass? What is it? And don't give an answer right away. Just look at it. When one quietly looks and inquires, then everything reveals itself for what it is. Because then there's no escape, no distortion. Just, what is it? No threat behind it. Wait till I catch you. I'm going to get rid of you. Meaning a trait, a certain character trait. So there's no question of getting rid, of catching. It's a question. What is it? Mentioned today in one of the meetings to one person. If with a child, if the child has complete trust that it will be listened to, he or she will be listened to without threat, punishment, or a sermon, then the child will report what happened. Somebody else may say, what a truthful child this is. If there's any fear or inkling that there may be punishment, disapproval, or a sermon coming up, the child will either not report at all or lie. And it's not just like this with children, is it? But it starts there. So how can we create this freedom from pressure, threat, compulsion, so that there's freedom to look and to question and to inquire and to attend? Into this incredible confusion, sorrow, fear, and anxiety and compulsion that is the human mind. Not my mind or your mind, but the human mind. And if something is revealed or discovered, not to get stuck in it, either with condemnation or it's something beautiful and so one starts cherishing it and reveling in it. To see it and be done with it and move on in quietness. And if there comes the fear, hey, what if there's nothing else? What then? Find out. Don't know nothing. You can't know nothingness. How could you? What you know is words. There's a commentary to this koan by Mumon, and this is how the commentary reads. Now, in studying Zen and disciplining oneself in Zen, one must strictly avoid following sounds and clinging to forms. I'll read the whole thing first, then we go through it bit by bit. Now, in studying Zen and disciplining oneself in Zen, one must strictly avoid following sounds and clinging to forms. Even though one may be enlightened by hearing a sound, or have one's mind clarified by seeing a form, this is just a matter of course. Sekita's translation is, even though you attain insight when hearing a voice, or hearing a sound, or seeing a form, this is simply the ordinary way of things. It is nothing to talk about either if a Zen man or woman is able to master sounds and control forms, and thus can clearly see the reality of everything and is wonderfully free in everything he does. Though it may be so, you tell me, does the sound come to your ear, or does your ear go to the sound? Even if you're able to transcend both sound and silence, how do you speak of that? If you listen with your ear, you cannot truly get it. When you hear with your eye, then you can really get it. Sakida says, then you're truly intimate. The first sentence says, in studying Zen and disciplining oneself in Zen, one must strictly avoid sounds and clinging to forms. Why just in studying Zen? We must be very careful not to make such a little niche out of this thing, which has nothing to do with the rest of our life. Shibayama or Mumon, if you question him on this, doesn't mean that, but it sounds like it. One must be careful how one expresses things, translates things, and take into consideration that these are translations. How does one avoid? Well, let's first talk about discipline. It's the first thing that appears there that can be talked about. In disciplining oneself in Zen, there's a strong feeling among many people who come to Zen that they come to it because, as they say it, I need this discipline. I can't do it myself. I can't discipline myself. I need discipline imposed upon me. Why? If you sometimes see a TV program about, we used to read about, now we see it visually, in color, about an explorer who needs to climb that Mount Everest or explore the animal life of the desert or the bottom of the ocean. Because he needs to do this. That's what he wants to do. Therefore, he doesn't do this and this and this and this and this, because he can't do everything. To do that, he must put up with certain conditions. Get his muscles trained in a certain way. The space is limited in one of those things that go down to the bottom of the ocean. All kinds of training goes on, not for its own sake, but to do this thing. Probably as he observes there, or two of them together through a capsule, the fish, they don't constantly chatter and have conversation about what they did a year ago. They watch. Because they're watching and intensely interested, they're quiet. It's not that they put a sign up in the capsule, no talking. They may not be in a capsule, they may be observing some animals who may at that moment not be aware of them. They have one of those tele lenses, but they don't move because they're watching, and they know if they move, they influence the animals. They haven't adopted a rule, no moving. They just don't move because they want to find out something. And they find out if they do certain things. If you stay up all night till 1 o'clock in the morning, very difficult to get up at 2:30 and watch, what do you call those things, when the sun disappears or the moon disappears? Eclipse. You have to be awake to do that. If you're too tired, your eyes are blurry. You find those things out. Actually, as it's been pointed out, and one can read up in a dictionary, the word discipline means learning in its original meaning. And a disciple is one who learns, not one who follows rules for the sake of following and ascetic reasons, asceticism or whatever this has become in the minds of some people. So what does it mean to strictly avoid following sounds and clinging to forms? I don't know what Mumon had in mind. There are many, many interpretations you can give to this. One interpretation suggests itself right now is, don't cling to the sounds of Zen, the bells, the gongs, the chants, the forms. He says here, strictly avoid clinging to forms. They may be beautiful, inspiring, arousing, and then become a thing in itself, to be attached to cherish, to relish, away from this inner muck. Fear, anxiety, loneliness, which is the me in its bare essence. But if you interpret it differently, literally say, strictly avoid following sounds, and as people have done or used to do when they joined a Zen center, they would sell tape recorders or hi-fi sets, radio, TV, only to buy it back later on. Maybe not all. It doesn't mean do this and then this will happen. You find out for yourself what has to go, because you need to do this thing for yourself. What is obstructing or detrimental? Not in a moralistic sense, not in an ideational sense, but concretely, directly. It says here, clinging to forms, and of course this is always pointed out, there can be forms, but don't be attached to them. How does one know whether that one is not attached to form? Form meaning anything. It's a very vague term, and when one hears a vague term, the mind remains vague. It could mean a certain ritual or ceremony, rules, persons, ideas, teachings, one's house, one's furniture. What we talked about in previous talks is this identification with one's group, one's family, one's country. How does one know one is attached? It is so easy to say, I'm not attached. We need some forms, but I'm not attached. You don't know until you lose them. And then the same anxiety and fear that created them in the first place, or that created the attachment in the first place, surfaces again. May have been sort of muffled through the attachment to the form, to the person. And then somehow or other the thing breaks up, one loses it, the person dies, and there's the fear and the anxiety and lostness. And one may go crazy, as people put it. I'm falling apart. That's a good time to sit when one feels one is falling apart. Because what is falling apart are the ideas, the attachments, the images in which one has found comfort. Can one sit in that and not know the outcome? Is it possible? If you need to, you will. Or you, as quick as lightning, find a new refuge, a new attachment, a new occupation, a new ceremony. Mumon goes on. Even though one may be enlightened by hearing a sound, or have one's mind clarified by seeing a form, we could also say having one's mind clarified by hearing a sound. Sekira, I think, writes about insight into that. The word is not the thing, even though certain words have particular auras, of particular associations, deeply ingrained in the mind, which have pressure, have effect upon us. One must see that. Remember once in school, in one course, where we were dealing with the effect of language. Our assignment was to take different newspapers and a column in each, a reporting column in each newspaper, and look for loaded words and see if newspapers differed significantly in the amount of loaded words that were used in a news article. A word which already arouses partiality, emotion. And in fact, they did differ on that particular day. So for a reporter, or for that matter, for anyone saying or writing anything, is it possible to purge the language of loaded words? Which means great sensitivity to what is loaded. Which means not having a motive of wanting to influence one with a loaded word. So one must see the motive. It all comes back to attention. So even though there may be clarification, enlightenment, insight at hearing a sound or seeing a form, it is just the ordinary way of things. What is talked about here is this hearing or seeing in which there is no one who hears or sees. There's no division. There is no separation. No distance. Which, if it happens, is usually accompanied by feeling of relief or joy or great lovingness. And here Mumon says it's just the ordinary way of things, which already sounds a warning. Don't make a thing out of it, which we do so easily. The image of the one who has had this insight, Kensho, enlightenment, whatever name. Now I'm different. Or that person may not feel it, but somebody else who finds out about it thinks that person is different from me. Person isn't. We aren't different from each other at all. Such hearing, such seeing does not belong to anyone. It is the true state of things as they are. And it's either seen or it's not seen. If it's not seen, why not? What's in the way? Wanting, fearing, running, expecting. That can be seen in silence. We'll skip the next sentence. It can create so many images about a Zen person. When you read about a Zen person is wonderfully free in everything he does, what an image it creates for you. I want to be that Zen person. And then dreaming about it and working toward it, you don't see the unfreedom here. The freedom is in the seeing. What is here now, not in the dreaming or in the aiming at. That becomes very compulsive. It rides in the tracks that have been laid down thousands of years ago. You must become, you must achieve in the future. If not in this life, then in the next life is the Eastern philosophy. So we can postpone. But you can't postpone. That's an idea. You gotta do it here now. Not you do it. Question. Look, inquire, without knowing. This instant, not tomorrow. And if one wakes up to the fact that one dreamt through the last several instants or minutes or hours, leave it. It's finished, it's done, it's the past. It's gone, irretrievably gone, except for what's been laid down in the memory. But that's not what happened, that's just a little trace there. Can it be erased in attention? Now? Attending now? So that this memory has no power whatsoever? It doesn't exist? Because I'm attending and listening and looking and questioning here? Humomon goes on and he says, tell me, does the sound come to your ear or does the ear go to the sound? If you try to think that one out, think about it, you're going to go nuts. That's exactly what he wants to do, go nuts and leave it, trying to think this thing out. There are other such conundrums. I remember one person once asked me, when you stand on the beach, you hear the sound of the waves, the breakers. If you didn't stand on that beach, nobody did. There was not a soul there. Would there be that sound of the breakers coming on the beach? can be the beginning of a lengthy argument. Maybe if I'm not there, then there's a God who hears it. Actually, in truth, it's only when you're not there that there's the sound of the breakers. Not there, I mean, as the background, the judge, the wanter, the interpreter, the controller. When all of that is not there, then whoosh, a little bit later, Mumon says, if you listen with your ear, you cannot truly get it. When you hear with your eye, then you're truly intimate. When he says, if you listen with your ear, you can't really get it. This is again the ear that has the interpreter sitting right in the eardrum. The interpreter, this is the breakers, and they're coming in particularly strong right now because the tide is high. All of which are acceptable and good explanations, but they don't help to just listen. Because then one is preoccupied with one's knowledge. Same goes for the eye. If knowledge, recognition sits right behind the eyeball, then there's no seeing. Then there's only a reviewing what one already knows, or maybe a recombining of some data. So when Mumon says, only when you see with the ear and hear with the eye, what he's saying is wholeness. Not as a concept, meaning no me needing to feel its existence, needing to nurture, uphold, defend, and cherish its own existence, or abhor its existence. It's the other side of the coin. It's also the me, fed up with itself. It's always a thinking process going on. And one doesn't see and hear directly, intimately, immediately, meaning without any mediation. We will end here for today.